Welcome back. Still morning show here on Rise News, and we're changing the conversation. We've got somebody really very exciting here to talk to us. At this watch, just take it away.
Indeed. Well, a recent development in Nigeria reveals the prompt effort by the Nigerian Police, in freeing about 1,000 children and adults from several Islamic schools in northern Nigeria. One such school was discovered in Daura, President Muhammadu Buhari's hometown in Katsina.
The crackdown has increased pressure on the president to tighten oversight on traditional Islamic private schools known as Almajiris. Gladly, more than 1,000 children have been released from various Islamic religious schools, also serving as rehabilitation centers for children with behavioral problems in northern Nigeria.
We have many questions. However, there's one thing, to release the children. Another is to get them properly fitted into society in Nigeria. So joining us to talk about that is Dr Maymunah Kadiri, psychiatrist, psychologist, who will discuss the religious torture centers of northern Nigeria and the prospect of rehabilitating the rescued victims of such centers. It's a joy to talk to you this morning. First, why do we even have, because we hear parents sometimes take their children and put them in these centers in a bid to rehabilitate them for very skewed reasons. I'll take you back. Somebody had an interview. He said he was doing his PhD.
Yeah, I know of that
in the UK.
I know of that case.
And because he disagreed with his parents, he came home on holiday.
2 years he was there.
And they took him to that school for 2 years. Because he was enlightened, he had seen the light, so he could question some decisions. What is happening?
It's technically
sad. I like this particular topic for 3 reasons. Number 1, I'm a Muslim. Number 2, I schooled in the North for 8 years. And number 3, I was also in an Islamia, or what they call Makaranta, where you learn the Arabic. And I was able to do what they call my Wulima, even by 11 years of age. So what they are doing right now is outrightly rubbish. I will tell you, when you say rehabilitation center, they are illegal rehabilitation centers. So why would parents take their children there? Stubborn, truancy, the child being bold and say, this is what I want, that confidence child. We are in a society where culturally certain things are not accepted in our children. That boldness. So you see a 3-4-year-old in a rehabilitation center queried Islamic school. They are not Islamic schools. They are chained, they are flogged, they have which room is
a torture chamber.
A torture chamber where they will put your head upside down. A lot of them are put in a single room. So you can imagine, even if you are stubborn and you are chained and living in one room, what then happens? With time you start hearing voices. And this is what mental health awareness and advocacy is all about. Get the government to pass this bill to an act. It will take care of all this. Because now, if we take them out of these places, like what you just said, what happens to them? How do they get back rehabilitated into the society?
But what do you say to a lunacy law of 1954 that is still in existence today that says that even those people, once you take them out of the rehabilitation center and you cannot ascertain their mental viability, you should sell all their property and belongings to take care of them. So that's the lunacy act.
So that is why the bill is there for this 9th National Assembly to pass it urgently. Because with that act, all this, I say, use the word rubbish now, or illegal centers will be abolished.
Okay. Dr. Maymunah, what is likely to be your clinical assessment of these people? Because in the center in Daura in particular, you had children as young as age 7, 5, 6 in that center. What are the likely consequences on their mental health?
A lot. Let me quickly even go to what the World Health Organization has talked about mental illnesses. Half of all mental illnesses start before the age of 14 and 2/3 before the age of 24. And we have children that are less than 14 years in that place. So if we have 100 mental illnesses, for example, that means 50 start before the age of 14. So these people are already faced with a lot of socio-political, economic challenges. They are traumatized. And what can come out from trauma? Anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder. Even those that are not on drug abuse can start abusing drugs. Psychosis can come in. So for us,
And also the abuse. Some of the girls were said to have been molested. Even the
guys were sodomy happens, homosexuality, things that they weren't faced with. They got into that place and they are now faced with these challenges. Aside from medical clearance, which of course is very, very key, just to make sure you rule out any other medical condition, all of them must go through psychological evaluation. From there, they can then be reintegrated back into the society with treatment, with their families, because now the families must be highly involved. Because if they are not aware, they will look for another Islamic place. So this child, there's something, so he hasn't gotten sense yet. Let me still push him to another place. So it has to be both individual, family, everybody involved to get them to that level to say, look, this child might have even had a conduct disorder. That doesn't necessarily mean that this child has a mental illness, maybe a behavioral challenge. So understanding the angle is coming from does not mean that you should put him in such a place. When I watched that video, I shed tears.
Which of the videos? There's so many. They're from Northwest, we've moved to North Central, because in Kwara State, in Ilorin, there was one, busted in Kaduna, in Katsina, in Kano. We're seeing everywhere.
But I'm happy the government is cracking down on them. I'm happy that is happening, but of course, it's now getting them better reintegrated. For those in Kaduna, a number of them are being taken care of by the psychiatric hospital there. Okay. Daura just happened now, so I'm definitely sure that will be looked into too, because we can't let them just go back to their families. They are not, some of them may never be well again. A lot of us are traumatized in one way or the other. It's in our pathway to recovery, we get to know how people can, on their own level, heal, because it's individualized.
You know, I love the fact that you said that the families have to be involved. And this takes me to even one of the leaders of this group that's was a 78-year-old cleric and transferred the rights to his son. So we see that it's even in the family, something that has been going on for a while. As a Muslim, you know, there are people that are coming under the guise of trying to teach these children the holy ways, or, knowing the Quran as well. How do we break that religious belief that you have to go through this in order to become a certain way?
The thing is that when people are faced with challenges, naturally, worldwide, then when we narrow it down to Nigerians, because we have to bring it back home, there are two major ways we deal with these things. A lot of times, more than 80% of us go to our religious leaders. Whether you're a pastor, or a malam, you see us going there, pray for me, and all those other things. They must be involved in this awareness program. They must be enlightened. And if we have to really do what we have to do, for example, what I'm saying this is that we still have one psychiatrist to 1 million Nigerians. So you can't see psychiatrists in mainly rural areas. People like that can be reintegrated, gotten into our circle. Let's do train the trainers. Let's get the primary healthcare center people trained on picking up all these minor mental health issues. Because even if they come to the tertiary institution, where do they go back to? To the communities. So the 1% of budget that is allocated to primary healthcare center, it should be done now. So that these monies we can properly educate the primary healthcare centers, get the religious bodies trained. The UNODC is doing a lot on the drug training and all that. In general, we're trained the national training trainers on universal drug prevention. And we've been doing a lot of trainings. Because it's all about prevention, getting enlightened, getting educated. Because the information we have, when people know it, they won't be doing this kind of disservice to human beings.
Here, Dr. Maymunah. All of this is all good talk, but it can't be exciting unless we have mental health under the National Health Insurance Scheme.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. It's sort of far cry. Because the problem a lot of people will tell you is it's difficult to access mental health. Like, take, for instance, Dr. Maymunah, you don't come cheap. The only time I have a session with you is on the television. If I'm to come to your office and say, Dr. Maymunah, I've got this and that, to speak for 30 minutes, I know how much you will charge. But with medical insurance could subsidize that. I want you to speak true to that.
Truly, I think that is one of the biggest challenges too. Government, National Health Insurance Scheme, then the health management organization, which are the HMOs, they should all have mental health services incorporated. at a highly subsidized rate. I can tell you because I'm in that angle right now. When you walk in, out of the pocket payment is more expensive than the HMO that will have come to us, negotiated on behalf of their clients. And so when they come in, they pay a highly subsidized rate. And I'm looking like, why can't we all just buy this insurance? Because you never can tell when you are faced with challenges. We lose loved ones. We may just need counseling. Sometimes you may not be sleeping well. You may just need somebody to counsel you and deal with. Sometimes we may have what we call the psychosomatic problems, where you may be manifesting some physical symptoms because you are dealing with emotional challenges. So please, like what you said, National Health Insurance Scheme, health management organizations, they must have insurance incorporated. Then all our primary healthcare centers must be trained, personnel there must be trained. Then our state should have proper rehabilitation centers. You know why I'm saying this? We have government, federal government, but most of the other things are private. State-owned centers are, Daura, I will tell you, they don't even have. Kaduna, they have Baranawa because it's federal neuropsychiatric hospital and it's a federal government. It's not state. So if state also get themselves involved in this, it becomes togetherness. And together, we are stronger.
And I'm wondering, are these not the factors fueling and propelling centers such as this? When you look at the doctor-to-patient ratio in Nigeria, it's happening. Then talk about the psychiatrist ratio to patients. That is not even existent. Let's not even talk about that. Are these not the factors propelling centers such as this? And I'm wondering, because I'm trying to make sense of all of this, because families send their loved ones to these centers. Is it possible that centers like this can actually provide such care? And I'm saying this because one of the owners did say, initially, the center was okay, the ratio was okay. It just became overburdened after a while, after many years. Is it possible to get any sort of care from such a center?
When we talk about the will of
let's take that response, Dr. Maymunah, when we come back from this break, and it's very important. You're watching The Morning Show here on Arise News. We'll be right back. Join us again. Welcome back to The Morning Show here on Arise News, and we're still talking to Dr. Maymunah Kadiri, a psychiatrist and psychologist, discussing the recently surge, will I say, or crackdown by the Nigerian Police of so-called rehabilitation centers where people are chained, beaten, and molested. Dr. Kadiri, I was asking you before that break, the lack of professionals, the funding we had mentioned earlier, out of pocket for health. Don't you think that there's some of the factors that propelling these centers? And is it possible that these centers can actually provide care?
Yeah. So when we look at the wheel of wellness, spiritual wellness is one of it. So yes, they can get spiritual wellness, which is very good too. We need to be all rounder, even if it's not 10 over 10, at least 5, just be that kind of balance. But when it now comes to medical and psychological, they are not equipped. And that is where they need support. I'm a psychiatrist. If you come to my center and you have high BP, I'm not a cardiologist. I'm going to refer you appropriately to where you get that. So it's still lack of mental health awareness. And what are the drivers? Stigma, discrimination, taboo to talk about it. If they are aware and they are trained, so people like that, what they can do is to train them. So, okay, you've given this child spiritual awareness, but you still notice this child is behaving these diseases. Refer to the appropriate center rather than then chaining them up. I have a friend in Jos, Dr. Aisha Almiyaw. They did the research on street children. They found what were the drivers: poverty, number of children, increase in number of children, and of course our social, cultural, religious beliefs were the drivers that take these children to the street. They wrote to up to 11 malams because she's in just only 2 accepted to allow them to interview their children. They interviewed 107 children on the street. The youngest was a 3-year-old. And they found out that there are a lot of mental illnesses associated with these children. Top on the list was drug abuse. Because they are exposed. They go on the street, they beg, they take the money back to these malams that use it for their own family members and their children who are not on the street. So we really need a lot of advocacy on mental health, pass the mental health bill. State government they just have to stand up, arise. We're on Arise TV anyway. Arise and
in this quest, you know. I mean, because I keep referring to the likes of Dr. Lambo.
Yeah.
We all know the monumental impact just one man,
exactly,
Adeoye Lambo, made in mental health in Nigeria. In fact, apart from he single-handedly
did a lot of things.
Did a lot of things.
You're right.
So how do we get more Dr. Adeoye Lambos?
To get into it.
To get into it. More foot soldiers. You know, because this bill, for instance, it needs to be passed. I remember when we both met at a forum talking about drug abuse by a top telco in this country. That was the same conversation we had. And it looks as though since we started the campaign, nothing has been done.
So I smiled when we were talking about this because the average Nigerian is still hungry. Poverty is still high. There's an exodus of doctors out of Nigeria. Because they are not properly remunerated.
There's a crisis. The labor minister said it's not true.
Said, leave that story. We know what is on ground. Between now and December, I can, for free, tell you the number of psychiatrists that will still leave. Now, I don't even ask people, why are you leaving? Because they will even tell you these days that they are leaving.
So the question, where are you going?
Where are you going? And then they will not send you a message, I have just relocated, I've settled down, this is where I am. Not less than 10 to 15 psychiatrists. I'm not talking of those in residency. These are consultants that have gone through another 6 years of training, leaving the country. We still have less than 2 of them. So the truth is that the days of Adeoye Lambo, I think things were easier. Maybe government were paying more attention. And they could accept certain recommendations and strategies in putting things in place. Any little thing you bring on board now, they will set up a committee that will take up years as if you are having a litigation. It shouldn't be like that. It should be action. We are tired of talking. It's time for action. The action should even start. 9th Assembly, pass the mental health bill to an act. That bill will soon turn to an orphan bill. If we don't, certain measures are not taken.
How are you lobbying for that bill?
The Association of Psychiatrists. No. We are doing. You know, the thing is that a big guy won't go to the floor if it's not sponsored. So it's sponsored. The Association of Psychiatrists of Nigeria are taking a lot of measures. Anytime it's time for a hearing, they go. We go around, of course, and there are other non-governmental organizations also quality, and we are also trying to move, the health sector. There's a committee for everything now. So look, the senator on this, the House of Rep on that, getting everybody, let them even hear. And I think with this that is happening now, should all know mental illness is not a respecter of anybody in power. It can happen to anyone.
I mean, Prince Harry came out recently.
Exactly, and said, look, I did even when my mom died.
Prince Harry came out.
We need to understand that it's not by power, it's not by strength, it's not by your social class or your religion. No religion. It can happen to you. So passing that will help, number one, alleviate that. Look, there's a law now. Certain things can be done. You can't sell people's property. You can't just take them to these illegal homes.
You cannot call them lunatics.
You can't call them lunatics. And then these illegal homes will not be operated. But of course, capacity building is urgently needed. How many psychologists do we have? How many psychiatrists do we have? How many psychiatric nurses do we even have? Capacity building. So when we get the primary healthcare personnel trained, get these people that have this legal, okay, you have the interest, come for this training so that you can help pick out the little things you can deal with and refer to the appropriate bodies.
Okay, to quickly bring it back to these particular children that over the past month we know that have been released and, like you said, are being put back into rehabilitation centers. Now, everything you've said makes a lot of sense, but they're like long-term goals.
Yeah.
What are the short-term goals that we can put into practice? As I did so, I'll say quick fixes and solutions that we can put out there and can make a change and make sure that these people are rehabilitated back into society.
We need people to be more, to come out more to speak out. If we are narrowing down to the northern Nigeria, neighbors know where these centers are. They should come out more and say, look, this is one place. So we get everybody out. And then, of course, the government, because there are things that individuals can do and there are things government can do. With the government involvement, it makes it more proactive and it's more robust. Get the government involved, crack down all these centers, of course, do the medicals and do the proper rehabilitation. Because there are centers that can actually help once government is involved, and get their families. You can't do it alone. Because if you think you can rehabilitate in isolation and don't get their families involved, it's work done zero.
Well, this was no surprise to you. Do you think that it should come as a surprise to the government?
That there are centers like this?
Yes.
They know. Government didn't just, anybody in government now didn't just become a government official. You grew up in a community. And I said I was in North for 8 years. I knew this.
Yes.
I did my first medical research on motherless babies' homes. So these homes have been in operation for years. Well, and we just felt that these are children that were stubborn, they are practicing transit, their own views are different from our own views. And we have not even started talking about this transgender and all those other big issues. So we are still even talking about the basic things. More of the millennials will come out and be talking about these things. And I don't know what parents, how equipped parents are to deal with it.
How should parents deal with it? So take for instance, you come back home, take for instance, and you show your parents a picture of Bob Risky and say, Mom, is this good?
Some parents will just die. In fact, yesterday I had that conversation with a mother. She said, I am biased. I said, no, I'm an expert. I'm not biased. If my child comes and tell me, I will just educate. Say, no. I will cry. I will call the fire. I will pray. I will fast. I said, that is not the solution. You must face reality. Parents, they also need to be equipped on what they need to do or how they need to work with these issues when we are faced with them. Because most of us are sending our children outside the country.
And they are bringing this culture back, traditions back.
The world is a global village.
And apart from that, they are watching it on television.
Exactly.
The revolution is being televised.
Social media has taken over.
Can I ask one more? Yeah, real quickly before we go, what made you stay back? Because you said a lot of psychiatrists have left. Why did you stay back?
We die here.
Good answer. That brings us to the end of the show today. It's been exciting. My name is Rufai Hosseini.
I am Adeso Moran.
And I'm Sheto Atigari. Thank you for watching. From our entire team here in Lagos, enjoy the rest of your morning and the rest of your day.
We die here.